Joining me now is the terrorist expert Dr. Sally Leavesley and Robin Horsfall, who served with the SAS for 6 years. Of course, we introduced you a short time ago, and it's great to have you on the programme tonight. A truly terrifying ordeal for people there just enjoying their Saturday afternoon. Dr. Sally, who are Al-Shabaab, and more importantly, what do they want? What's your understanding of them?
Well, I think, first of all, we're terribly sorry for the Kenyan families and all the other nationals who may be losing their lives at this point in time.
Yeah, 62 dead, but 63 people still missing. A horrific ordeal, isn't it?
It is. We really don't, we've been saying this, we really don't know the situation at all. It'll have to wait till the end. But in the meantime, if we look at what's happening with Al-Shabaab, it's fascinating because in a way they've been an ill-defined group. Major crime has been piracy, a lot of funding coming, organised, interestingly, through the ship piracy payments through the City of London, negotiated through here.
What do they want? Or what are they trying to do?
Well, the early funding origins have come from crime, but the youth of Al-Shabaab and the process is to spread, to create their own power and their own state based on what we're seeing around the world, much more internationally, that it's to be a new world order, not based on elections, but based on a religious belief, which isn't really backed up by a lot of religious experts.
Robin, let's bring you into this chat now. I mean, we know the ordeal is going on into its third day. We're hearing from Kenyan security officials that they say it's under control now. They have the complex. There are some hostages potentially still in there, but they are confident that it's under control. What do you make of what's been going on?
Yes, I think they do have it under control. I think they can only be congratulated on how calmly and how well they've actually mounted this operation. From the moment that it began, you could see the security guards and the police calmly, carefully evacuating people, calming down the people that were escaping.
Would they be trained for something like this? Would they be
yes,
prepared
they've been
for it?
heavily trained for just this sort of thing. But it's one thing to be trained, and it's another thing when people are pulling the triggers and killing people to maintain that level of calmness. And they've done a terrific job. People have questioned why it took an hour for the troops to get on the ground. An hour is a wonderful response time. They got on the ground quickly. They've decided to mount an assault, and they've done that in what appears to be a successful operation.
And the authorities say they have the hostage takers in a corner, if you like. Is it nearing the end of the siege now, perhaps?
I think it is nearing the end of the siege. I think it's a mopping up and clearing operation. They need to clear that huge complex, every room, every cupboard, and make sure it's safe.
Dead or alive? What do you think?
If they're a threat to the soldiers or if they're a threat to hostages, then the best way of ensuring the safety of the hostages is to make sure they're dead. Once it comes to a situation where they're no longer a threat, then they will be captured.
And Sally, I mean, very chilling tactics we hear, not confirmed, that they went in trying to separate Muslims from non-Muslims. And if you have a look at the numbers who have been confirmed so far that have died, many of them foreigners, many from the expat community.
They are, but the first frontal attack was indiscriminate, wasn't it, Robin? Yeah. Everyone was being killed. That is a political play, because when we see this type of attack, and remember we've seen them in Afghanistan and elsewhere, this is well-known tactics that are followed through. And part of it is to play to the local community that they have the power over life and death, and by targeting the foreign nationals, they will say they are doing something for the community. And it accords to their very unusual sort of idea of religious beliefs. So they're trying to keep the community on side, to keep support. Remember that community that supports them also, we know, have links in communities here, and the very big danger in copycat attacks of this type is Western countries with hardened fighters coming back, because it'll be interesting whether any escape from this. But the hardened fighting in Somalia and elsewhere, they can come back, set up these layered attacks in these types of countries, and we will have a problem.
It's a common practice with terrorists to kill 50 people and frighten 50 million. And the second part of that is accomplished by the world's media. And it was very, very efficient of them to move the world's media back so that they couldn't give information away while these guys were trying to mount an operation.
And using Twitter, both sides, extraordinary, using Twitter. I mean, Sally, how important is it for the government to look like they're in control? Because, of course, what's happening is Somalia as well, and for the government to sort this out in Kenya.
Well, what we're seeing is a brilliant government operation right from the beginning.
It's brilliant, but many have died, haven't they?
The level of control that government has exerted and the calmness and the management of the information to the media has actually been brilliant. The difficulty for that population is they thought it was a crime. We now, if we hear shots in a mall now, we have to understand that it may be not hostage taking, but capture to kill. And unfortunately, these people are still into it.
Robin, we know that 4 British people have unfortunately been caught up with this, so we know that Cobra are meeting as well. Will British forces be on standby, special forces perhaps, to help?
No, I don't think so. I think the Kenyan government have had their own special forces trained by the British, the Americans and the Israelis over the past 20 to 30 years. And they're well capable of dealing with this situation, as they've shown very clearly in the last 48 hours.
What can the British government do you think, Sally?
Well, just adding on to what Robin's saying as well, it will be the intelligence feed, because particularly not only British nationals caught up, but what if British nationals are amongst the actual terror group? See, they're morphing into a much wider conglomerate. It isn't just Somalis per se. It's a group of Al-Qaeda type affiliates joining them for this type of spectacular attack. So we're seeing really not a nationalist group, but a much wider globalisation of these groups now. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's like a caravan. They follow it and go into other attacks.
It's an intelligence war, and occasionally bursts into moments of violence like this, but it's a huge intelligence war, and we're winning it.
Well, that's good to know. Robin Horsfall and Sally Leavesley, thank you very much for joining us tonight.